Hello, everyone. Thank you, Yoon Suk. That was terrific. Now I'd like to invite all of our speakers to join me for the panel. Please join me on screen. With us is one of Yoon Suk's co-authors, Karen Whitehill King, Emeritus Professor of Advertising at the University of Georgia Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communication. Her research focuses on advertising industry issues and health communication. Previously, she was a media planner and a research supervisor at the agency FCB Chicago. Also joining us is Nazrul Shaikh, SVP at Market Fusion Analytics, the lead author on the Best Practitioner paper with Mahima. His expertise spans marketing mix modeling, machine learning, text analytics, and applied operations. And then finally, we have the JAR Editor-in-Chief, John Ford, at Old Dominion University, Strome College of Business, as well as the ARF's Horst Stipp, who led the ARF's research on context effect. Welcome, everyone. And John, what can you tell us about what's happening right now at the JAR?
Well, first of all, these are two good examples of exactly what we're looking for at the JAR. We are very proud of our boundary spanning role between certainly the academic side and practice. And of course, what's really important to us these days? Well, a lot of things are of interest. And if people are out there listening to us that are working on these subjects, we are very interested in what you might be coming up with. For instance, around COVID and its impact on advertising, cross-platform strategies, very important, obviously. Context effects, certainly we need to know more. Advertising efficiency and effectiveness, neuro-ad effect studies, AI and its influence at this point, and also looking at things like, does our understanding of the way advertising works, is it still the same? Or do we need to rethink advertising and how it functions in this day and age? So those are kinds of things we're looking for. And I would also urge anybody out there who's interested in reviewing for us to please contact me or Nanette if you're not doing that already.
Super, thanks, John. So I think what we're going to do is I'll start with a couple of questions for Hadima and Nazrul. Then I'll turn it over to Horst to discuss our second paper. And then I have a few questions I think that would apply to all of the papers, especially in terms of how 2020 is different and how your results might have changed. So Madima, first question for you and Nazrul. Could you explain what you meant by retention?
So in our model, retention is basically the first time you see an ad, the impact that ad has on sales is X amount. Now, the next time you see an ad, it has an additional incremental amount. And then the third time you see an ad, it has. So the first time I see an ad, I'm not really seeing it in isolation from the brand message. We take into account whether ad stock variable, all these previous times I have been exposed to the ad, to the brand message, and what impact that really has on sales. Nazrul, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, means Paul, the easy way, as Mahima explained, the easy way to look at it is if I see an ad today, I might make a purchase tomorrow, next week, or the week thereafter. So the ad might have an impact, not necessarily immediately, but in the near future, or extended future. That particular concept is basically the retention aspect of it.
I see.
You retain more on television, or you remember the television ads more as compared to ones that you observe on digital media.
I see. Got it. Thank you. Do you know anything about the people who are reached by digital video compared to linear television? Is there much overlap? Are they exclusive?
So at least in our sample, in our data set, what if these were advertisement campaigns which were shown before TV shows, or they were tied to specific TV programs and so on. So typically what happens is that you will either see a TV show on television or you're viewing it online. You're not really, you're not that much really cross in between them. And that's why we believe we have very less overlap in audiences. Also, we know that it's the younger crowd, the 18 to 24 age crowd, that is watching online video more as compared to like the older demographic, right? So, yeah. So I don't think there's much overlap in our audiences. But we don't have consumer level data. So.
Yeah. Do the saturation levels, especially with digital video, are they related to generation?
So we believe that, not we believe, research has shown increasingly, and we have also seen in previous of our studies that, yeah, the younger generation retains less. They are paying less attention on digital video. And as you grow older, you are paying more attention to what the advertisement is. And so what is saturation level, right? Saturation level is how much do I need to spend to actually get some kind of impact? And we should really think of saturation in terms of two variables. One is the curve, how steep or smooth, or is it like we saw those differences. And the other is what's the maximum potential that you can reach, right? So if I see an ad once, how soon does it really impact my sales is my slope. But how much money do I need to spend to actually reach my maximum potential is how high it goes. So in terms of the younger generation, seeing it on online video, we basically, we believe they retain less. There is, and we are also targeting, you can target on digital video much more minutely. And that's also one reason why the saturation is lower than it is on TV. Nazrul, did I miss anything?
Paul, I'll add the following. So when you're asking questions on, say, generation and age, these are pretty much concepts related to targeting, right? So technically, I can select a target group, which is pretty similar on TV. Like, let's say, I'll give you an example that we're working on. When you target a show like, this goes back a few years, aligned with the study that we had. When you target a show like The Walking Dead, it had a much younger demographic that was watching it as compared to other shows on television. So questions on generation and age is related to targeting. The point over here is that you can be much more granular in your targeting on digital videos than on television, right? So when you have a broader targeted audience, then typically saturation is also slower. It's like when you have a big population to reach and the population is more heterogeneous, then it will take more time to be absorbed and then be basically more time for adoption. It's pretty much similar even like when you're spreading a virus or whatever. If it's a heterogeneous population, that is, it takes more time, a homogeneous population much faster. So same concepts, the saturation is related to heterogeneity, not necessarily related to age. And what Mahima mentioned earlier is the generation concept. Yes, means the older generation typically is less distracted as compared to the younger generation. So you don't need as many repetitions as required for the younger generation in terms of for attention to catch up. So that's what we believe in.
Does the targetability of digital video, is that what explains the higher ROI for, I think you had it for social and for the digital video?
Yeah, let me take this one. So at a low spend,
right,
targetability of digital video is much higher than on television. So that is essentially you're reaching new people, you're reaching relevant people, you're reaching them early, and you're so for the same cost of say execution, your return on investment will be much higher. On the other hand, what happens is as you start increasing the spend behind digital video, then slowly you have to reach out to more people, right? Otherwise, you're increasing the frequency and not really a reach. And that basically starts diminishing the returns or return on investment because you're reaching out to the same people multiple times. And when you increase or broaden your horizon from a targeting perspective, those broader target groups might not be as relevant as the narrower targeting group. The same is also observed in search. When you start buying for more and more keywords, the new keywords become less and less relevant. And then their effectiveness keeps going down. So we observe the same phenomena in digital videos. As you start putting in more money, you have to increase your target audience. As you start increasing your target audience, your return on investments start going down.
I see. Hina, anything you want to add? Or?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. No, I'm good. Thanks. I thought you asked someone else.
I do have but I have another question. There was a distinct difference in the digital video saturation curves. One accelerated very quickly and then flattened out. And then the other one was a much more, I think it was CPG, which was much more gradual and almost followed the television. Any thoughts on why there was such a difference in the shape of the saturation curves?
In our experience, curves, even for the same brand, actually vary significantly from market to market. Right? So when we offer, implications to firms, you don't just look at your one final curve. You will actually look at the multiple curves across markets, across campaigns, and say these are the robust implications across, all your saturation curves and all your spends. Right? So the curves being different is what we expect. It's not really that much of an anomaly, really. Why they're different? They're different brands, the spends are different, the dependent variable is different. The restaurant's footfalls, the CPG is sales. So all these factors really go into, making it different. Nazrul, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll add something. Yeah, just to make it relevant, right? If you start looking at COVID and look at how COVID spread in New York City versus New York as a state, or how COVID spread in Miami versus Florida as a state, you'll see that the patterns are different. And the reason is that in New York City, the density is different and the chances where people meet each other is much higher as compared to New York State on an average. The same concept again applies when you're looking at a curve for digital display video versus television. In television, the audience is usually much broader as compared to the audience that you're using and targeting on digital videos, right? Because the audience is much broader, you see that things are spreading slower. Things are spreading in a more distinct manner as compared to when the audience is very concentrated and targeted. Now, there's a philosophical issue associated with the curves too. Right? The philosophy is that, okay, do you want a curve to be very sharp and increase to a particular level, or do you want it to be gradual? Right? So, end of the day, we actually want a curve to be very sharp and increase to the maximum potential, because that means we don't need to spend too much time reaching saturation and we'll achieve the maximum potential over there. The only issue is that the maximum potential achievable by digital videos is much smaller than the maximum potential achievable through the, television, because of the broader audience that you're reaching. So that is where the mix goes in. The curves are different because, again, I'll repeat, because of the heterogeneity in the population and the broader targeting that is achieved through television as compared to digital videos.
Super. Thank you. Now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Horst, who's going to have a discussion with Yoon and Karen.
Thanks, Paul. Hi, everybody. As Paul said, I did some research at the ERF on context effects. In fact, I had just completed a review of the literature when Nanette came to me and said, hey, Horst, I got a paper that's going to be in the JAR that you might be interested in. So when I saw the paper and I saw somebody did exactly pretty much the same thing we had just done, I was very, very happy to see that you had all come to the same conclusion, which is context matters. It is likely to impact ad performance. And also that alignment between the content and the ad would be more likely, to strengthen the positive effects of the ad. Now, in taking a closer look, as we just saw in your great presentation, There's one thing that I want to discuss with you because I think it's sort of a little puzzling result. As you did, we had paid a lot of attention to the concepts like attention, enjoyment, liking of the content as something that drives effects. And we found a very consistent relationship there. But in your research, as you just presented this to us, you get different results for concepts like attention and liking and so on. You know, concepts that are clearly correlated. So I'm like curious if you could comment on that and what the explanation might be. And I should add the ARF, then after our literature research, we did our own research, confirming a lot of these concepts and focusing on attention and so on, and finding that there was pretty much a consistent relationship. So, so my question is, you know, what's going on there?
Sure. So there are a few things to think about. So first, we have to think about whether the effect of media context carries over to advertising effectiveness. So interest or involvement, liking, or positive evaluation, or induced by media context as a result of using media or media vehicle or media content, it may carry over to ad. So because people like the media content, they might like the ad because it was there, or because they were involved with the media vehicle, they may be involved with the ad content. So that is one thing. And then there's another thing to think about. So how much cognitive resources media users were using before advertising exposure. So theories like elaboration like a model, or a limited cognitive model, capacity model, suggest when people closely attend to or engage with media content, or their cognitive capacities are fully devoted to processing or interpreting, elaborating, or understanding the media content, they may have little cognitive capacity available for the ad message. So as a result, consumers may be less likely to process or evaluate advertising message, or whether they may not even put their effort to remember the ad message or the brand or the content. So that's possible what is happening. And also we did the moderator analysis. So depending on the media platforms. So something like entertainment and enjoyment, the overall effect was not significant, but we saw more of the positive correlations, and that was kind of because of the TV platform or the gaming situation, but it was more negative for the print media. So there's like some factors affecting, influencing all these this phenomena.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. If I may add, we found similar things, that if there's just too much cognitive activity going on, and by the way, I think that also applies to emotion, which you found in your findings, which you reported in your findings with regard to emotional involvement. So if the level is too high, it can interfere. The one issue that I had in looking at the results was you had a tremendous amount of studies that were done with college students. And I was just wondering, could they distort the result or introduce some instability into the results? Because it seems to me that college students are not an ideal population to address this question, especially with regard to, the effect of advertising, since they're not like typical consumers. What do you think of that? Or Karen, yes?
You're unmuted.
Karen, you're muted. Karen, we see your mouth, but we can't hear you.
Apologize. I was just going to say, I think there's several things to take into account. And of course, we did find a difference between college students and non-college students.
Exactly,
results,
yeah.
right? But remembering that this is a meta-analysis. So this is not, you know, a study that we developed and did. We took other studies and what other people had done. I think it is always important to look at what products were tested, what programs were tested. Are college students really the audience for these things? Which it isn't always clear at all from reading studies, whether in fact they did, you know, try and take all that into account. And you know, we don't know for sure were college students better, you know, really more, was it a better study because they were paying more attention because they were doing it for class credit? Or was it because they actually are just, you know, younger people and maybe a little different than, and used to doing jillions of studies? Of course, you run into that same issue when you use an online panel, because those people, of course, are used to doing jillions of studies as well. I think it is really imperative, if you're going to use studies with college students, that you take a lot of extra effort to determine that really, in fact, they are the media or the programs that in fact are directed at people in that age group and college students, and the products that you test are things. Yeah, we can ask them, do you use laundry detergent? And they'll say, yes. You know, how important is it? Oh, it's important. But then are they ever going to use something their mother didn't use? You know, no, they're not really going to pay attention to the commercial quite the same way. So I think, you know, it is really, you know, imperative for researchers to take those things into account.
Thanks. Paul, are we running out of time?
Yeah, but I have one quick question for Yoon Suk and Karen, and that is, do they think that context works the same way for streaming, for digital videos, or streaming as compared to linear television?
So go ahead.
Well, well, in our study, we had limited studies on the streaming video format.
Right, yeah.
But
starting in the 60s, I guess there wasn't a lot of streaming yet.
right. However, but you know, if you think of the advertising presentation format in TV, it is presented after the main media content, and we are still using the same advertising presentation format in the streaming services too. So we still need to see whether we get the same results or similar results or opposite. We don't know yet. However, the possibility is we might see the similar findings because of the advertising format. That's kind of what I think at this point.
Super. What we have is theory now, so.
Right.
Well, I want to thank all of our speakers and John today for an excellent session. Thank the audience. Be sure to go to the arf.org and register for future events. And this event, as all of our events, will be up on a recording. And so if you find it important for some of your colleagues to see, by all means, send them to the website and they can see a rebroadcast of this event. So have a great rest of your afternoon or morning, everyone, and stay well.